You know how we thought that cigarette smoking was something safe or healthy in the 50s and 60s? We know a lot more now, and that's not necessarily true. The same thing that we've learned applies to suicide and suicide safety. My name is Kara with Crossway Counseling, and I'm here to talk to you about how we've evolved and how things have changed to be more effective with suicide and safety planning. You might be thinking of verbal contracts, which is where we used to be in the 80s and 90s. Verbal contracts were telling your client, hey, I think that I need you to be safe, so I need you to verbally agree to not kill yourself in the next 24 or 48 hours. We know now that that research tells us that's not actually effective. In fact, they actually want you to feel safe and they respect you, so they tell you, yes, I agree. That agreement actually doesn't help them stay safe, and it doesn't help them survive a suicide attempt. It just makes us feel better. So what do we do instead? That's what we're here to talk about. Safety planning is now the best practice when it comes to suicide prevention and intervention. So what does a safety plan actually look like? Well, there's a couple components that you might have seen as you've gone through community mental health or you've gone through your own practice. So we're going to quickly break those down for you so you know exactly what this looks like. The first thing to ask them is, what does it look like when I'm well? It's an interesting place to start in a safety plan, but it helps a person really figure out when they start to decline and when this might actually be necessary. So what does it look like when I'm well? Could be taking their medications. Maybe it means they're getting up on time, getting to work or school on time. Maybe they're more animated in their body. So those kinds of things can really start the conversation around what's it look like when I'm well versus not doing so well. Number 2 would be, who are their supports? Now this question gets a little tricky when you have clients that don't have a lot of people in their life, or maybe they feel like they're kind of alone. So you're going to want to be kind of careful with this question, but you're also going to want to be creative with this question. Maybe they're thinking of only family or only friends, when really a support could be a mentor, a coach, a teacher, a pastor. Anyone in their life that can be a support that maybe just distracts them when they're struggling. The professional supports are you and me, the crisis hotline, the mental health centers, but those personal supports, those people are crucial. And maybe you just frame it as, who's going to send you that funny cat video? Who's going to make you feel better? Who's going to distract you if you called them and said, I just need you to talk so that I'm out of my head? Now, our youngest generations don't really like to tell people that they're struggling this severely. They're not going to admit they're suicidal to their friends. But if you just frame it from a place of, what would it be like to say, I just need you to distract me, what's going on with you? They might actually put that person's name on their list as someone that could support them. So we've got, what does it look like when I'm well? Who are my supports? The next step is, what are those warning signs? What starts to decline for them to know that they're not doing okay? Maybe it's they get more irritable. A lot of my clients talk about having a short fuse where everything just gets on their nerves. Maybe they're isolating, or as the youngest generations like to say, ghosting each other. They're not showing up to their social engagements. They're not seeing their friends. Maybe they're avoiding people after class. For the adults, maybe they're just putting their nose into their work and that's it. So those those warning signs are the things on the inside, whereas the triggers are actually the external things. What's going on around them that makes this that much harder? Maybe a trigger is a fight with their family. Something like a job that isn't going well. Maybe they got in trouble at school. Or maybe there's something else going on, like a breakup or another significant anniversary, such as a death or a seasonal change that makes things difficult. Once you look at all of the warning signs and the triggers, then it's about figuring out what they can do for themselves to keep themselves safe. The reason safety planning is working so well is it's an empowerment tool. It's not about just saying write it down and hope that it works. It's really about diving in there and figuring out what they're going to do. What's within their power to do, even when they're in crisis. Now we know that people don't think very well when they're in crisis, so having it written down can be helpful, but you might not also know that there are apps out there that can make this really easy for your client. Something that you can put into a phone that they can access after your session or between your sessions. So those action steps can be very personalized to the person that you're working with. Maybe the first thing to think about is the safety measures in the home. Do they have medications that need to be secure? Do they have a weapon that needs to be secured by a family member, a support, or another loved one? Maybe they need increased supervision or not to be alone so often. For when we're talking about teenagers, where are they going after school? Do they have a job or something to kind of keep them busy? All of these things can then be customized to put into an action plan. What's this person going to try first, second, and third to help themselves? Are they going to hang out with a friend? Are they going to call the hotline? If things get really bad, what's the next step? So by writing all these things down, or by having them in an app that they can check on their phone anytime they need to, it really helps them remember that there is something they can do, even while there's a crisis going on. And safety planning is brilliant for suicide, but it's actually brilliant for a lot of things. Could be for sobriety, could be for domestic violence, family conflict. So safety planning is not exclusive to suicide, and yet it is our best practice to help the person feel like there's something they can do in between your sessions or in between life moments. So this safety plan is something that is our gift to you. We're giving you a template so you don't have to remember these 5 working components when it comes to what does it look like when I'm well, who are their supports, triggers and warning signs, and action steps. We're going to give you a template so you don't have to remember those, but also so your client can start handwriting things in, because there still is a connection to writing this down. So I recommend trying to write it down first and then maybe put it into an app later. That hand-eye coordination really helps them download it into their system. So we hope that you've downloaded our template today so that you have access to this and can customize it to your clients, and we look forward to seeing what you think about it. So best of luck in using this tool, and we look forward to seeing you in another video.